Sounds good.
Okay,
Let's do it.
sweet. So would you like to introduce yourself to the boys? Obviously everyone knows you as Base Zeus, but who is Base Zeus?
Yeah, so Base Zeus is a animation dating channel that I started back in 2016, so almost 8 years ago now. And since then, it's evolved quite a bit. We've got over 1 million subscribers, 150 million views. We blew up pretty fast back in the day because we were making content that was very direct and actionable when it comes to what dating advice is. Back at the time in 2016, YouTube and the dating content landscape was a lot different than what it is today. So back then you had these long 30-minute long-winded pickup artists, very cringe content if you wanted to learn about dating, and it was very gate kept community. They had all these terms, and it was just very off-putting for someone who was new and trying to learn. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you had guys who were kind of giving advice, but it was a very ask men, very basic generic advice, like just be confident or brush your teeth or get a haircut. So Base Zeus, the reason I think Base Zeus did so well at the time and so quickly was because Zeus was really just an in between actionable dating advice, very quick to the point, and filled a hole in the market at the time. And obviously now dating and the whole men's improvement content is super mainstream. So it's been interesting to watch how this has all evolved over time.
Right. And before you started Base Zeus, like what inspired you to start Base Zeus? Was it just you and your buddies? Was it you by yourself? How'd that all begin?
Yeah, so it's always been a little bit of a team effort because I don't know how to animate. I'm not exactly a great editor when it comes to content. So I've always had editors, animators, etc., who've helped out when it comes to making the actual content. I had some friends involved who were helping with some content ideas back in the day, but it's been me when it comes to the actual content and the overall direction view of the channel. That's
And
kind of how it started.
was it AI as a voice or what was it?
I can't give up all the secrets.
Okay, okay.
That's a secret I'll take to the grave on that one.
That's awesome. Cool. So but who inspired you? Was it like, did you have a mentor at the time?
Not a mentor when it came to YouTube. So when I started it, my background is more in tech and the startup scene. So at the time I was working at tech startups. I was in college as well. It was really just I've always done well when it comes to dating. I've been me and my friends used to go and cold approach girls at the mall when we were 14 and 15 years old. So I've always been above average when it comes to dating. I was always helping my friends or taking their phones and texting girls for them so they can get girls out on dates. And my friends would always ask me for advice. So when it came time to go to college, I kind of just made the content that I would have wanted when I was in high school. And if you look at especially the original videos on the channel, it's really evolved. In the beginning, it was catered towards high school guys, really, really young demographic. The videos were super beginner, super basic focused. And as I matured and as I got older and as the audience sort of got older as well, it kind of evolved naturally over time.
And then how old were you when you started Base Zeus?
I was 19.
Okay, nice. So I'm 19 right now, actually. Okay,
Yeah, that's
cool.
funny.
Hell yeah. So did you ever realize like did you think it was gonna be easier doing no face, or did you show your face before and you're like, okay, I'm gonna switch it up to no face? How did that all work?
Yeah, so it was a couple reasons. One, because the content to be I wanted the content to be focused on the content, not necessarily the person behind it, because that's something that I've seen happen with lots of different educational or infotainment type channels where I feel like there becomes a cult of personality around the person. And the bet was that the content we had was really good and the content that I was making was going to get guys results. So I figured I would let the content speak for itself in that regard. Also, it was just a really novel and unique way of doing it. It was essentially a virality tactic to make the content blow up and be more memorable and get people more invested in what was going on. In terms of no face and doing animations, there's a big give and take. There's a lot of pros and cons. I think I think having that unique angle to provide the dating content. Anytime you're making a product or you're launching a business or you have a channel, you always want to have a unique selling proposition, right? What is the unique thing that you offer that is going to have people coming to you and separate you from the rest? So that was part of that. It also made it a lot more fun and gave me a lot of freedom over what to do and what to say, etc. But as far as, you know, why I decided to do it, it was really just what made the most sense from a business perspective, or if I thought, how do I get this to reach the most amount of people? That was how the idea came to be.
And so, like, did you all the things that Base Zeus or the branding talked about, or the things that you were creating? Did you 100% agree with all the things that you were speaking, or that the content was being created about, or were you just creating it because it was just you knew it was going to work, it was going to go viral? How closely were your beliefs tied into all the content?
Yeah, so it's funny because now that we've moved away from the animation stuff and it's the content is largely myself now, that's actually something that I've thought about a lot. It's hard to go backwards and say, what do I agree with and what don't I agree with? I was a different person at the time. I'm 26 now, right? I've been making these videos for 7.5 years. So it's hard to go back and watch a video and be like, I mean, obviously I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that I've said now, but that's because I'm a different person. It was for a different time with a different context. So I don't necessarily feel like I need to agree with everything that I said in the past and I need to defend it or anything in that regard. As far as did I agree with everything that I was saying when I was writing the content as Zeus? I would say philosophically, yes, and generally, yes. I would say the way it was packaged, the way it was worded, like I probably agreed with the general philosophy of what was being said, but the way it was, I wasn't married to the way it was said either, because it needed to be entertaining, it needed to be comedic, because that was a big aspect of the channel. Sometimes we would even be satirical on some of the stuff we were saying, but I wasn't married to like, is this like, no, this is what I believe. How can I say this in the most interesting way, in a way that's going to be funny, and in a way that's going to keep viewers invested? So that's a roundabout way of answering your question. I would say yes, generally I did. I wouldn't have provided advice or promoted something that I didn't agree with philosophically or on some general level.
So, were you always based, or did you have some heartbreaks? Did you start watching some videos or start learning the hard way, or were you just always good with women?
Yeah, man. So I remember, like, for example, when I was in middle school, we had flip phones and phones that slide up and have a physical keyboard. When I was in high school, I was using a BlackBerry with a slide up keyboard. So the internet and how to get advice back in the day was not very, and especially when it comes to how it is now, it was not the same. And not to act like I'm some old guy, but that's just a testament to how fast things have grown. I mean, I'm sure you can see a year ago, manosphere content, right? Or just men's content in general, with the core focus being improvement or dating, wasn't really popular a year ago. And now it's
Right.
the most popular genre, right?
Mm.
How did that happen? Why did that happen? Etc. Back in the day, it was not like that at all. So there was nowhere to really get content. You literally, I remember reading WikiHow articles unironically, like unironic, you know, those WikiHow articles where they have the weird drawings and they give you this really generic, often borderline terrible advice.
Yeah.
People would unironically read those back in the day because that was the only way you could get advice on stuff. There wasn't really the only people who would make YouTube advice were direct response marketers who were, you know, peddling their funnel or whatever it was. So it wasn't very good in terms of how I gained my experience. It was just a lot of putting shots on the board and throwing myself at it because I was just a young kid. I'm like, I want to date girls. I want to get good at this. I don't like feeling like I didn't like the feeling of leaving it up to luck, or as if I'm not in control or in the driver's seat of my ability to get what I wanted out of my dating life. And it was just a lot of fun, like meeting girls, talking to girls, and just working on it. It was just a fun skill to get obsessed with and have fun with when I was younger. So that's sort of how it evolved.
And then what made you want to show your face after so many years? Because you didn't show your face for how long?
Yeah, so we started the channel in 2016. We hit 1 million subs in 2018. So we hit 1 million subs 2 years in, and we did the face reveal for 1 million subscribers. I felt at the time it made sense just to have a 1 million subscriber reveal. It kind of felt like it made sense at the time. There wasn't really a super calculated decision. I just thought, I think this makes sense. me personally, I wanted to do stuff outside of just dating content at the time too. So I felt that gave me flexibility to do other types of things, launch a second channel and whatnot. So it kind of made sense at the time, but it was really just a fun way of doing it. I never became a centerpiece on the channel after that. It was really only, I think before January, I had only ever been in like 7 videos or 8 videos total, maybe 10 on the channel in general. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going to transition, where in actuality, excuse me, it probably would have made sense to have a transition back then. Now that I'm doing a transition where it's more myself in the content. But
Because you presented
yeah.
yourself as like the manager or Bezos' buddy, like he was never there. So in the beginning, at least, for the most part.
Yeah, so that was kind of the fun part. It was really fun writing that script and coming up with it. It just felt like a cool idea to explore and sort of unpack that way. So in terms of how we did the reel and whatnot, we wanted to do it in a way where it still kept some of the mystique, and the way it ended was up to interpretation. But it
So
was
back
very much assumed that I'm the guy behind Zeus.
Right. And then so back then was it very cancel happy? Were you like aware of like all the cancel culture going on for talking about just red pill content or just the truth in general? Was Bezos ever close to getting canceled or deleted or any of these things?
So we've always had issues with we've never made money from AdSense. I think my best month ever from AdSense was maybe 3 grand from AdSense, and that at the time we were getting like 4 million views a month. Um,
Yeah.
so we were getting quite a lot of viewership. Our CPM's always been below $1 about, so it's always been pretty bad. That's because our channel didn't blow up or get monetized until after the YouTube Adpocalypse, which happened back in 2017, 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that was a big deal
No,
back
no.
then. Yeah, so
Yeah.
back then there was a couple hit pieces that came out in the New York Times or whatever that basically there was Coca-Cola ads running on ISIS videos, and how YouTube monetization, they just slap ads on any videos and
Hmm.
people are making money from it. So a lot of advertisers pulled out of YouTube funding. So it totally tanked the CPMs and the RPMs for creators, and it got a lot stricter. That's why when you upload a video now, you have to rate whether or not it's suitable for advertisers. And that was never a thing back in the
Right.
day. Um, anyways, in terms of the cancel stuff, I mean, the Zeus character was animated. It was also comedic. So we were able to say stuff that was, for comedic value, right? So I never really felt that was a big deal. And I don't personally, I never felt like I was really super saying anything crazy. Did we make some really out of pocket jokes as Zeus? Yeah, of course. But it was a different time. We're making content. It's a fucking cartoon. So how seriously can you really take it? And yeah, was I worried back then? Not necessarily, but it was just easier to keep things separate. So if I wanted to do other content outside of dating, I still had this thing that was focused on that. It was a brand on its own. But
Mm.
I've since changed my mind on all those things.
Okay, nice. And then you do have a personal brand now outside of Bezos. So are you trying to completely disconnect yourself from Bezos, or are you trying to what are you trying to do with your personal brand now?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So there really is no personal brand. There's kind of a transition going on where Base Zeus is I'm in all the content on Base Zeus now. Whether you go on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, it's just me now. So is like the separate personal brand that I had and just Zeus being Zeus and being dating is kind of mixing and unfolding in a way that I'm still not even sure of. I just wanted to make a transition. I wanted the content to be more real. The space has changed a lot. People want content in a different way. People are talking about dating in a different way. And also, I'm growing and maturing, and the Zeus character and the fact that it's a cartoon is inherently skewing towards a younger, more immature audience. And that's just not something that I want to cater to forever. So I figured I might as well start transitioning away from that into what's more representative of where I'm at personally.
Yeah, because I when I was younger, like I think even before I even started YouTube, I remember seeing some of your videos like just popping up on my feed or on YouTube. And then when Austin Summers put me in that group chat, and then I saw you, and I clicked on your name, and it said founder of Base Zeus. Like, what the fuck? And I had no idea about the face reveal, any of these things. So I was like, dude, that's fucking crazy. And then I started exploring more and watching the face reveal videos, and it was pretty cool seeing all of it kind of unravel, um, which is super sick.
Yeah, I would say our content wasn't necessarily red pill either. The
Mm,
red pill stuff, it's been really interesting to watch the red pill stuff unfold, in the sense that no one was talking about this stuff a couple years ago. This is something that I would say started popping up around 2019 or 2018 was the first time I was hearing the words red pill. People would comment it on my videos. I'm like, what the fuck is this red pill stuff? So I kind of went down the rabbit hole and saw things unfolding, and the I'm very not surprised, but I'm taken aback by how much the red pill scene, the reactionary content, the podcasts, has blown up. Because back in 2019, I remember seeing the first few red pill creators. They were just kind of small and obscure, but they were getting a fuck ton of views for how small they were and how
mm,
new that their content style was. This sort of reactionary content, when it comes to dating, and it's just blown up like crazy with Fresh and Fit and all the other guys who are making content in this regard. So
right.
it's an interesting evolution with how dating and men's improvement has gone. But I always felt like our content on Zeus was super dating focused, and I never. I guess you could say there's some red pill concepts in there just by the nature of us talking about men and women and dating. But as far as the red pill stuff, I don't know how. I never know how much that felt like it was in alignment with what we were doing, because ours just felt a lot more practical.
Yeah, it's so interesting because even for me, I was inspired to create content by Coach Corey Wayne, because his advice completely changed my life. And I noticed a lot of kids around me would start to notice, hey, why are you getting all these girls? Why do you have so many girlfriends? How are you doing this? And I'd be like, dude, it's Coach Corey Wayne. Be like, oh, it's outdated. He talks about pagers. He talks about flip phones. It's outdated. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna prove all you guys wrong. I'm gonna use all the same information, but I'm just gonna be the one saying it. And then it blew up. The podcast blew up. Everything I was saying blew up. And then I actually started to find all these terms and these people in the manosphere. Right, the first time I ever heard "based" was like people commenting it. Or the first time I heard "red pill" was people commenting it. I had no idea what these terms were. I had no idea who Andrew Tate was until I started creating my first videos. And after like a week of creating content, like me and my brother, we were in the backyard, and a video of Andrew Tate and his brother, like the first podcast they have together, and there was like a live stream or something, and they pop up. And it's crazy how I started finding all these guys slowly, like right when I started creating content as well. And I was like, dude, there's more guys like me. This is awesome. And I remember when like Fresh and Fit, they just started coming up as well the same time I started my podcast. And then I started finding more dudes. And for some reason, I just thought it was like super, it was super hard to find these guys. I wasn't in the space like looking around for dudes. It was just, I found one guy, Coach Corey Wayne, stuck with him, started creating content, and then I started finding all these other dudes. And then yeah, I got canceled. That's why I asked you about getting canceled and showing your face, because right in the beginning of like the first 2-3 months of me creating content, got canceled. You know, someone made a hit piece on Instagram and got like over 100,000 likes by all these feminists in California too. And I was still in high school at the time, so my high school was like trying to get me kicked out of the school. A bunch of crazy shit, bro. So like cops coming to my house, showing up at school. It was nuts. Um, so I see
What
why
did you
No
get
Face.
canceled for?
It was one video on TikTok, and I talked about how men and women are valued, and I talked about how for women it's mainly based off how women are born. They're born with value, right? They're born with the ass, the tits. They're born with value and power because they have that over guys. And for guys, we're born like lower in value and status, and we have to kind of build ourselves up. And I just said, like, yo, freaking guys have to build themselves up, right? And girls have to maintain their value. How guys build themselves up is through power, success, money, status. And for girls, they have to maintain their value by having good integrity, doing the right thing, not having sex with a bunch of dudes. And I think that was the biggest thing that so many people got heated on, was me talking about how sex is bad, for girls. And it just went viral. So, but at the same time though, that's when I saw most of like my followers coming in. That's when I got the most views. And that's when I actually like grew like a really hardcore strong following after that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't been canceled. I mean, you'll make a video and your fans will get mad at that you said something or they disagree or whatever it's going to be. But I don't think I've ever been canceled to that level. So how did you take it? How did you deal with it? And what did you learn from it?
So I think for me, the perfect time I was getting canceled, I was reading a lot of books predicting that would happen. Like 48 Laws of Power, they talked about it. Like, and I read 48 Laws of Power like 3 times in a row, right before it happened. So I understood like the power dynamic. All attention is good attention, right? And me and my brother, we just kept repeating it to each other. When people were trying to cancel us or trying to make up fake lies about me specifically, ex-girlfriends trying to come out, trying to, claim a bunch of stuff like how they did with Trump and Andrew Tate, whatever, for attention. Um, it, I just had to keep repeating myself like, hey, all attention is good attention, right? And I just had to keep remembering like this is going to help me. Because it's actually looking back at it now, I'm super glad I got canceled. It was probably one of the most epic things ever. At the time, it was kind of like, whoa, this is weird. Like everyone is against you right now. Your friends don't want to associate with you. Girls don't want to talk to you, right? These are all things that so many guys are fearful of. And now looking back at it, I'm like, dude, this is the best thing ever because now I got to see who's on my side when shit hits the fan and who's not. That's when I got like the most closest girls around me to actually like be my ride or dies. That's when I saw like who's really for me in terms of guys who create content as well. Even some guys who create content were like, oh, I don't want to associate with him, or guys who I even hung out with, right? So looking back at it now, it's like, dude, that experience was fucking amazing because that's when you see who's really on your side and who's not. The girls around you, the guys around you, and it's really awesome. So looking back at it now, it was pretty awesome. But at the time, I was like, what the fuck,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely.
So it was pretty interesting. Plus, I didn't know anyone at the time that was getting canceled, So it was like, what the fuck? Like all your teachers hitting you up like you can't show up to class, you're not allowed to go do this, getting hit up by random people sending death threats to your family. Your family's like, what the fuck is happening? So it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you still follow that philosophy that all attention is good attention? Do
Most
you
definitely.
find that that's useful for what you're trying to do?
Most definitely. I think I don't think I've ever really cared about money for this. I think if I cared purely about money in the beginning, it's probably not a good idea unless you had a really good product or service and then you got canceled, it'd be good. But at the time, I didn't have any product or service. I didn't have anything to offer, right? It was like all I had was donations, right? So the only money I was making at the time was people donating. But for me, this is something like I'm very passionate about. I'll do it without making money, and I think that's why I think I'll be really successful with doing the podcasting and talking about this stuff. Because this is one thing that I'm super passionate about because I've experienced all the things I talk about. I've gone through it, and I don't like seeing other guys, especially if they have the opportunity to learn from me. I wouldn't want another dude having to learn the hard way, right? Eventually they do, but just knowing that, hey, like if they do learn the hard way, at least I told them they'll come back and they'll be like, damn, fucking Logan was right. So I think business wise, it's probably not the smartest, especially if you don't have any products or service. Maybe if you do have some products and services, it'd be good. And now that I do have some products and services, I'm actually looking to get canceled even more. so,
Got it.
but especially because I figured out a pretty good strategy as well. With like the Tate method, basically of just having loads and loads of people, creating content for you, having multiple pages. I think if you only had one page, that was your only option, then it would be kind of bad, right? So now I have multiple websites, multiple Instagrams, multiple YouTubes. The only thing I need is multiple Spotify's now, but that's basically what I'm trying to work towards. Just not. It's just like basically unhinged. It's just like everywhere. I'm just everywhere. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, makes total sense.
But yeah, it's interesting though because it's not really it doesn't really sound like a good business idea for sure. Obviously, it's a little sketchy because you're kind of relying on a bunch of other things, and you're still relying on the platform. Um, if you're looking obviously to make money, you gotta play by the rules on the platforms, especially if you only have one account. So, but yeah, what do you think about Andrew Tate blowing up, doing getting canceled everywhere, getting deleted everywhere, but he's making like $10-20 million a month.
Well, what do you mean specifically? Like what about it are you
I guess we
asking?
could talk about business first, and then you could talk about what you think of him when he was blown up in the very beginning.
Yeah, from a business perspective, it depends how you think about it, right? There's a couple ways to think about it. You could say that perhaps Tate could have done exactly what he wanted to do, maybe done 80-90% of it, but walked the line a little bit better in terms of saying stuff that was going to get him canceled. Or that's typically what most people can do. You could say, hey, you can probably say 80-90% of your message. Maybe just don't say the craziest stuff so you don't get canceled. But in his case, the problem was that all of his old content was where all the craziest stuff was. So it was already said by the time he was, blowing up and I guess inspiring people in his new way, because his new message versus his old, some of the stuff he would say in his old content is completely different. And I think it's very clear in a lot of his old content, he didn't think there's a lot of people watching. And there was, in his content, he was joking or kidding, or maybe not really being serious. He was being hyperbolic. In terms of a business perspective, I mean, hey, he's making a lot of money. So who am I to say that it was a bad business move or a good one? I think just in general, there's a lot of lessons, and the lessons being the affiliate model works. And I hadn't seen an affiliate model work like that in a really long time. So I think the way he was able to use the affiliate model is something that's really, really cool to take note of. But I think it also would only work specifically for him in his case, because he had a very unique personal brand. His subscription products were really, really smart, because you could constantly have people coming in, and then you're creating revenue that's consistent. You're creating monthly recurring revenue rather than a one-time product. So I think there was a lot of smart moves from his regard. But I think also he's just such a unique personality that he was going to blow up regardless of the platforms or what was going on eventually. And I remember the first time I heard about him, I had seen him on a podcast years ago, and it was unlike anything I had ever heard before. Just the way he talked, the way he spoke, his lifestyle, etc. So I'd kind of been being in this space. I kind of had an idea of what he was working on and doing in the background. So seeing him blow up the way he did, it's not surprising at all. And obviously, he's made a lot of money from it.
Right. And then how did you meet Austin Summers? Because Austin Summers is the one that put me in this group chat with all you guys. So
I think I met Austin Summers at a YouTube, not a YouTube event. I met Austin Summers at a business event in California back in 2018. We met because we had both attended the event, and we had some mutual friends there, and that's how we kind of got introduced at the event. And then we've kind of just kept in touch ever since.
nice. And do you agree with all the red pill stuff? What do you think about all the red pill stuff, the manosphere now today? I think Austin posted something pretty good, which was, the manosphere used to be getting girls and helping men, and now it's just about roasting chicks. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting, because the comments on my videos that I see now versus the one that I've seen years ago are just completely different. And I know people say, oh, don't read the comments are bad, whatever, and that's true. But the comments are the representation of how your audience thinks and what the cultural pulse is on what you're saying and what you're doing. And it's interesting that now, with the rise of all the red pill stuff, I mean, there's so many things that encompass red pill that I wouldn't even know where to start. But generally, do I think do I think guys are getting better at dating, or that the way the content is put out now is net positive for building healthy, productive relationships with women? No, definitely not.
Yeah, no.
I think people have been sold this machismo, half truth attitude that you don't need to focus on learning communication skills or actually building relationships with women. You can just make a bunch of money, and then somehow women are magically going to fall from the sky later on down the line, and
go
just
to
work on
fucking
yourself.
Japan. Yeah, the passport
Yeah,
bros.
there's all these sorts of really unproductive narratives, and they're all just clever ways of lying to yourself, or clever ways of not of avoiding the difficult work of like, fuck, I suck at talking to girls. It's uncomfortable to go up and talk to someone that I don't know. It's uncomfortable to figure out why am I not getting matches. So instead of doing that, they just think, oh, I'm not going to focus on myself. And the thing that's most ironic about that is that all of my richest friends, I have tons of friends in their 20s and their 30s, etc., millionaire, 7-8 figure net worth easily, and all of them were dating and had relationships or were meeting and spending time with women during the time that they were building their wealth, and are still meeting and dating women as they continue to. So this idea that it's one or the other is nonsense. And this idea that if right now you're not the kind of guy who can attract a woman at 20 or 22 or 25, that somehow magically when you make money and you're 35, you're going to be able to attract women, it's just not true.
Even worse. It's gonna be even worse, bro, for sure.
Certainly. And I mean, that's the biggest thing I work with guys inside one of my coaching programs is I work specifically with older guys, and a lot of them, they're 30, they're 29, they're 35, sometimes 40 and up, and they make good money. They're in shape. They're over 6 feet tall. They're good looking, and they don't know how to talk to a girl for their life. They don't know how to text. They don't know how to get matches, right? Because they never actually learned this, and they thought girls would just be lining up for them by the time they got successful. And surprise, surprise, it's not the case. As far as the reactionary sort of dunking on women on the podcasts type of content, it's just devolved into another form of politics, right? It's women say this and men say that, or my team says this and my team says that. It's if you could replace anything that the people are saying with left versus right politics, right? And you see that now all of the manosphere red pill content talks about being like it's no mistake that they're talking about being woke, or that they're always against people who are woke, right? And it's because this is really just devolved into another form of politics, which is why, for me personally, the reactionary content, the dunking on women, is kind of just like, is it entertaining? Of course, right? Like people are going to find it entertaining. That's why it's super, super popular. But do I think it's actually helping guys get better in terms of building healthy relationships? I don't think so. I mean, if all you see on the internet is, club girls going on a podcast and then getting into expecting intellectual, level-headed debates from girls who were probably pre-gaming to go to the club right after the podcast,
Right.
you're probably not going to get super insightful stuff, and it's going to distort your view on women.
For sure. And I don't know if you saw me on the whatever podcast, the video that went super viral. Like I sent in the group chat, like Usain Bolt liked it, Ty Lopez liked it, all these dudes that liked it.
I saw you sent that.
Yeah, so that video, I went on the whatever podcast, and I didn't really know like what it would be like to hop on another podcast, like Super Red Pill podcast. And then started like halfway on the show, I'm like, dude, all these guys in the comment section are just so salty with women, and they're just talking shit to all these girls. Obviously, the clip of me that went viral was me roasting or having a comeback against some chick, which is hilarious because I put in so much effort and time trying to help guys, and I actually get results for guys. But that doesn't go viral. One clip of me, roasting some chick, it's like 30 million views in a week. Like crazy.
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
Because the reason that the content where men are arguing with women on podcasts and dunking on them gets the reaction is because it reinforces and gives guys an excuse or a reason as to why they're not getting success, right?
Correct.
It's like, oh, it's not me. It's not that I suck with women, or it's not that I suck at making conversations, or that I'm full of a ton of excuses as to why I can't go out there and actually just talk to a girl or approach a girl or whatever it may be. It's that women in 2023 uniquely suck. Women in 2023 are all whores, or it's all single mother, or it's all single mothers, or all gold diggers, or whatever it is. Even though you're broke, right, or you've never had sex, so why are you worried about single mothers or gold diggers, right? It's just nonsense at the end of the day, but it's very comforting. It's convenient
It's easier.
Yeah, it's like you're rejecting the girls because they reject you, so you reject them first, and you're just completely checking out of the game. You're refusing to play. Right? Because you're so bad at it. And if you go in and you do play the game, if you do throw your hat in the, whatever the expression is, if you do try your hand at it, you're potentially going to lose. You're going to be faced with failure. Whereas if you don't try at all and you say the game isn't worth playing and women aren't worth pursuing, women aren't worth it anymore, then you never have to expose yourself to the failure. It's just mental acrobatics.
Right. So yeah, during the podcast, I realized, like, dude, all these guys are not getting results with women. That's why they're so angry. That's why I made it my goal in that entire podcast just to give advice to guys. I completely ignored the girls 90% of the podcast, the whole entire podcast. And I was speaking to the audience. And it was so funny because whenever I'd speak to the girls or I'd roast a girl, all the guys would be like, yeah, W Logan, W Logan. Yeah, fucking this guy's based. This guy's speaking facts. And then I speak the fact about how all these guys are getting mad about women using simps, but it's actually the simps who are allowing them to get get used, bro. Like it's the simps who allow women to walk all over them. And I said that, and all the guys are like, "Oh, you're young. You don't know what you're talking about. What do you know about dating, right? What do you know about this? You're 19 years old." So it's super funny how these guys will just they know it's right. Deep down, they know it's right, but they don't want to accept the fact that they actually have to work on themselves to get these results, right? And it's so crazy to me how I'm half these guys' age. I'm on a podcast. They're in the comment section of the podcast I'm on. They're salty. You know, me and my brother are the guys fucking hooking up with the girls after the podcast, right? So that's the funniest thing is like these guys have no idea what's going on.
Well, if you want to see like the fraud that is like the fraud and the sort of the self-own that is the business model of this, right? Is why do podcasts bring on OnlyFans girls?
Yeah.
Like, why is that? Why do they do that consistently?
Yeah.
One, because
they
it
know.
makes content. They can dunk on the girls, right? But why do the girls go on if they know they're walking into a firefight, essentially, or if they're walking into an ambush?
Because
Some portion,
watching.
yeah, some portion of these guys who are complaining about the women and complaining about OnlyFans and complaining about all the tropes that are symptoms of modern women, right? They're still going to buy the OnlyFans, right? There's this weird repressed energy, and the only reason the business model works is because these guys are paying. It's profitable for these OnlyFans girls to go on because these guys end up paying for it, even though the whole time they're dunking on her, calling her worthless, whatever. If you want to see like how twisted and dark the psychology of it can be, and this isn't me
No, I've seen this. I know this behind the scenes, bro. I've seen this. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm not
100%.
hating on any specific podcast or any specific person. It's obviously like they're making content. It's entertainment. There's a market for it, right? So by all means, go ahead. But do I think it's productive on average for the average guy to be consuming this sort of men versus women, really just proxy for politics? No, it's net negative. It's net negative,
Right.
and the reason it feels so good and it's so entertaining is because you're probably coming up short in your dating life, and this just reinforces all of the excuses you have in your head as to why you're not getting success.
Yeah, I mean it's much easier to go on a comment section and just talk shit to women rather than actually be like, "Hey, I wonder why I'm not seeing success with girls. I wonder why I'm allowing these women to walk all over me, and I'm wondering why I'm paying for these chicks and I'm not getting any sex in return. Oh, it's probably because I need to work on myself and there's something wrong with me." But so many guys are too weak to look at themselves and they don't want to look at themselves because it's much harder to do that. It's much harder to be self-aware than to just roast some chick or call her out for being a 304 or whatever.
I don't even know what that means.
Dude,
I
I didn't know
hear
what it means
the
either.
304 thing all the time.
Dude,
I'm assuming
so
it just means a girl's a hoe, right?
it's like hoe upside down in like numbers. It's like boobs on a calculator, but it's fucking just 304.
Oh
you flip
my
upside
god!
down. Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe I don't know. I don't know the full meaning. That's what I was told. There could be more to it. I don't know, but they love
That's
using it
funny.
304. They love using it, so I don't know.
That's funny. That's actually kind of funny. Yeah, wow, that's really good. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm like, bro, you see that in that's all they comment. 304, 304, 304. Just spam that shit.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of guys who are my audience are like, bro, why don't you do more podcasts? Why don't you go on more shows with these girls and roast the fuck out of them? Like, you're good at it. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm good at it. It's like anyone could roast these girls. But what is harder is to actually better yourself and help men better themselves. And I think there's going to be an opportunity, though, because so many of these guys are getting pushed into this red pill roast girls, but they're still going to suck with women. They're still nerds, right? And then I think hopefully they're going to realize eventually that, oh, fuck, I need to actually do something within myself. Wasting my time on a comment section, commenting negative stuff isn't going to make me better or make me more successful in life at all. And so hopefully they start coming back to our pages, my pages, and start to find what is really important, which is yourself at the end of the day.
The other thing to keep in mind here too is that it teaches you an unrealistic way of communicating with women, right? These guys are on podcasts, they're communicating and arguing and debating in a very, very logical way. And if you've been around women in a romantic context, at least in a romantic context, a woman is not meeting up with you after a long day at work for a drink or for dinner or whatever it is to talk and speak with you logically. It's emotional. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be playful. So guys go on, they see, this person dunking on a girl and hitting her with the facts or whatever it is, speaking to them very logically. And then they think, oh, well, this guy has a lot of people following him, or this guy is doing really well. This is how I need to interact with women. I need to be like, I'm a high value man. I'm going to cheat on you. I'm going to have sex with lots of other women, and you're going to sit there and you're going to accept it because you're a woman. It's like, good luck telling that to a girl. I hope you try that out and let me know how it goes. I promise you it's not going to end well, right? Because this is just not how communication happens in the real
Andrew
world.
Tate doesn't even do that. He says that
of
to
course
guys,
not.
But he doesn't
No,
even
of
do
course
that.
not.
No.
Of course not. No, I mean, a guy as charismatic and as socially in tune and aware as he is, the way he's speaking to you, a 20-year-old guy, and the way he's speaking on a podcast where his goal is entertainment value. Yeah, of course he wants to teach you as well, but the goal is to keep you entertained, teach you some stuff along the way. What someone like Andrew is speaking, the way he speaks to you is not going to be the way he speaks to women in private, not even close, right? When he's on a date. So to even try and emulate that style is wrong. And Andrew Tate wouldn't even tell you to do that if Andrew Tate's the person that you want to look up to, he's the person that you want to emulate, right? So I think some of this is, you can make the greater point here about social media that because it's performative to a certain extent, right? Me and you were presenting a catered, curated version of ourselves. As much as we'd like to say we're being just 100% ourselves, we're obviously we're cognizant of the fact there's a camera. Because there's a performance aspect of it, people are consuming this type of content on their phones all day. They start to think that the way people perform for camera is the way people perform in person or should act in real life, in their real relationships. And it's like, no, dude, go touch grass, brother. Realize that relationships and communication is really not like this, and that this is not. You need to take the message that they're telling you, but not necessarily go and emulate it, depending on what it is you're trying to learn, right?
Right. And then what are your suggestions for young guys my age? Obviously, you were very successful when you were 19, my age. What would be some advice you'd give to me or guys around my age?
So, the advice I would give to you, I would say then this is going to be against probably most conventional advice or what most people would tell you. I would say the biggest, the biggest risk you're going to run, and the thing that's probably going to hold you back the most, or will contribute to negatives in your life, in your position. I'm just assuming you're in a similar position I was in at that age, is your ego. And I know people say, oh, your ego's good. You shouldn't, you don't want to go off and be a monk and accomplish nothing, which is true to a certain extent. But it is very hard to be young and lack the life experience. And I'm not saying you lack life experience. I mean, you've been canceled, you've interacted, and people obviously like to listen to what you have to say. But there's just a certain level of life experience that you're lacking just because you're younger. And unfortunately, getting all of this fame, this success, etc., is going to cause your ego to inflate. And a lot of times the reason you chase it to begin with is because you were trying to fulfill something from a place of ego. I know I was, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, because look at all of the benefits or the good it's caused you, right? It's responsible for all of your success. But the problem is like what got you here isn't going to get you there. So there are going to be times where you're going to have to put your ego aside and say, like, this is actively hurting me, or this is actively holding me back from hitting my next financial goal, right? Like when I had this come to Jesus moment that my ego was holding me back in lots of ways, not only was I on average day to day significantly happier and less stressed, but also that was when I went and made the most money, right? So this idea that having a large ego or being cognizant or not having too big of an ego and isn't possible to, if you want to like make money or have big goals, I'll say like the times where I've been able to swallow my pride and put my ego aside and be cognizant of it are the times I've gone on to make more money and gotten the most success ever. So that's the one thing I would say in your position. And it's going to be hard because how many 19-year-olds are in a position like you, right? Like you're blowing up even earlier than I was, right?
Right.
So that's the one thing I would say is be mindful of it. Your ego is going to be a powerful tool. It's going to want you to go higher and higher and higher, but it's a never-ending chase. It's never going to be satisfied, as I'm sure you're already starting to realize. Like, oh, I want bigger things, which is great, but you need to realize that voice in your head, that ego, is never going to be satisfied ever. It's insatiable, but also because it can never be satisfied, it's gonna require you to do crazier and crazier things that may end up being net negative for you long term. So just be mindful.
Okay. And what would you say for, obviously, not a lot of guys, like you said, have a very grown social media or they have followers. What would you say for the average guy? Should they strive to get that, or should they strive to build a skill set? What should they strive for if they don't have this?
Well, I don't like to give blanket prescriptions
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know everyone's specific situation. If someone's like, I want to make a lot of money in real estate, or I want to make a lot of money in banking or concrete business, do they need to go and get 20,000 Instagram followers or 100,000 Instagram followers? Maybe not, right? I think making content in general is something that is almost always positive
Mm-hmm.
because it allows you to articulate your thoughts, and it attracts people who like that type of who like what you have to say. And I think for most businesses, or most skills, you would benefit from content because it's going to generate you business or generate you leads. Now, that being said, do you need if your goal is just dating, do you need to have a lot of followers? Absolutely not. I was having tons of success with Instagram when I had, 900 followers, 2,000 followers, 3,000 followers, like before I was known or associated with a YouTube channel. Ironically, as I'm sure you know as well, having lots of followers can sometimes be a detriment. You'll DM a girl and she's just going to think, oh, he's just a fuck boy. He DMs girls all the time. He does this, and you're going to get put into that category.
You need to be seen as like somewhat, because girls want to have the fantasy that they can tame you. But if you seem untamable, right, you're uncontrollable. Like they have no amount of, I can maybe change him, right? That's what gets them to, meet you in the first place, even if you're a fuckboy. But if you have all these followers and you're showing this lifestyle with so many girls, it's going to turn off a lot of girls from thinking that I can change this guy, or I could be a part of his dream, right? Or I could be a part of his fun bus, right? But once you go too overboard on these things, it's kind of like, and the girls you will attract are just going to be girls who are clout chasers, girls who are just doing it for the camera, So it's kind of interesting. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah, honestly, I think my cold DM response rate, conversion rate, was highest when I had like 3,000 followers, right? It's enough that it's like a lot, so they think, oh, he's a social guy, it's a big social circle, maybe a lot of friends, or he's a cool guy, but it's not 30K, 50K, 100K, whatever it may be, where they're like, oh, he probably does this all the time, he uses his followers, or he uses his blue check mark to hit on girls, and it just feels transactional. And again, in a romantic context, it's all emotional. It doesn't want to feel transactional, which is why this idea that you just go make a lot of money, you go get successful, and the girls are just magically going to come with it is not true. Girls are not, you don't hand your resume to a girl and say, okay, let's fuck, right? You don't hand your resume to a girl and say, will you be my girlfriend now? No, it's all, that stuff may get her initial interest, but whether you keep that interest and whether it turns into a relationship that's going to be healthy and productive is based on the actual emotional connection. And that all has to do with your communication and the way you interact with people.
Right. It completely, it's all about your frame, how you present yourself, and who you are is what's going to keep her attracted. Like, that's why I say pickup is very temporary. And I guess social media followers could be a form of pickup, right? You might get the girl, but what's going to maintain the girl? It's not going to be the money. It's not going to be the status. It's not going to be any of these things. Obviously, you've seen guys who have status and money get divorced, right? So what is it that maintains the girls? It's who he is without all of these things, right? And that's the biggest thing. And for a lot of guys who have a lot of followers, even today, my buddy messaged me. He's like, and he's got like 500,000 followers on Instagram. And he was like, dude, do you think it's a good idea for me to message girls, or if I meet a girl in person, should I show her my main Instagram? I'm like, no, dude, create a separate account. Do not, like, especially if it's girls you're actually interested in, like, create a separate account. And he has a separate account, which is good. I'm like, yeah, just use that, bro, because if she's gonna be interested in you, then cool. And then maybe if she finds out later, it's gonna be a bonus. It's not gonna be the main thing that picks her up in the first place, right? It's just gonna be a cherry on top to it. 'cause I notice as well, is like, bro, the girls I'm meeting on social media with my account that has a pretty good number of followers, it's like, you don't know what type of girls these are, right? You don't know if they're just hitting you up because you have followers, whatever. Especially if it's in person too. Like, I wouldn't ever want to show my Instagram, my main Instagram, to girls. I just want to see if she's actually down for me, just for who I am. And most of the time they are, right? So
Yeah, there's so many things there. Like I have friends to 1, 2, 3 million followers, blue check mark, and you'd be surprised. You'd think, oh, they must get any girl they DM. It's not as high as you think. The conversion rate is still quite low. And again, it's for all the reasons that you've outlined and I've outlined as well.
right, yeah. I think Andrew Tate talked about it as well. Is like he was also getting a lot of chicks before he blew up, especially through Instagram. But the second you hit like a threshold of like too many followers, because that's the fantasy, is like it's a paradox, is girls want mastery over a man that cannot be mastered, right? So if they know that there's no way that they'll ever be in your picture, right? They're not even gonna try. And that's the thing, is even if they might think you're a fuck boy, right? If they have some sort of sense of, okay, this guy is actually a little bit of a nice guy, or this guy's actually a little sweet, right? But through social media, you can't tell, right? That's just in person. So it
The
is super
biggest
interesting.
thing when I meet girls off dating apps, the number one thing that they tell me is you're so much nicer in person than I thought you were going to be. And it's because, I've been taking photos. I've had like done the whole Instagram influencer thing for a long time. So all my photos are more serious. They're a little more like model-esque. So they're assuming I'm going to be this, maybe straightforward, super direct, like super intense guy. And although I do get described as intense, they're like, wow, you're just so much nicer and more sweet in person. I wasn't really expecting that, but it ends up being a positive, a huge bonus, because they come in thinking I'm going to be really intense and almost mean or a dickhead, right? But when I come in and I'm super nice, it just makes it that much better.
Right. And what was like the biggest challenge of having base Zeus as the face of the brand? Did you see like how was your credibility? Did people trust you? How did you see all that? And what was like some of the problems?
So I've given this so much thought. When it comes to animated content, the difference is that people just aren't going to be as invested and care as much for an animated person or cartoon, because it's not a real person, right? So that's going to hurt some of the engagement long term. I think in the beginning, a big reason why it blew up was because it was so new and unique back then, right? But now there's a lot of animations channels. There's all these faceless AI YouTube automation channels that do this sort of thing. Uh, so you're not going to build big of a connection or as deep of a connection with, someone who's not real. The other thing is that cartoons typically are just going to skew younger, a more immature audience. Like if you're a serious guy, you make good money, you're busy, you have a whole life going for your lives together, and you come across a cartoon, even if it's really good and it's really compelling, you're probably just going to want to learn more from a human, right?
Right.
Um, the other thing to keep in mind is that depending on what business model is, that it could be helpful or it could be harmful. If this was
Mm.
just content where I was making money off of AdSense and views alone, it would be great in the sense that this is content that's great for the sake of content. It's very interesting, it's very engaging, and it's still pretty new and novel nowadays. The thing to keep in mind though is that, let's say, for example, my interest is in coaching guys really, really deeply. Now I've done courses, I've done, over 400 YouTube videos on dating that appeals to the masses. But in terms of where I'm at and how dating still remains interesting, is being able to go really in depth and advanced with a hand selected group of guys, right? So I can actually watch them grow and it feels more personal and we can get a lot deeper and I could talk about dating in a way that isn't going to appeal to a broad audience. And if you want to work with someone and you want them to help you solve your dating problem, or you want them to help you solve your business problem, are you going to want to listen to a cartoon, or are you going to want to learn from a real person?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, probably back then it probably went better. I think it's getting worse now that people know about AI. So now when they think that they're talking to a screen, it's like, oh,
The
I'm
the
probably
voice
talking
wasn't
to.
AI, by the way. I feel comfortable saying the voice is definitely not AI.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um,
But now, what I'm
yeah,
saying is
but
like now AI, but now people can do
yeah,
that like with AI like super super well. And they can just spam out a bunch of AI content like of just exactly what Base Zeus is doing now. So I think back then when you were doing it, I think it was a perfect time like to do that shit. Now I think it's now everyone's kind of aware of like, oh, this could be AI. This is not even a person, you know. Back then it was very new, I think, and I think that's why you grew to like so many subscribers, so many followers. Um, but how are you
that
monet?
I would say that model would still work today for
Mm,
other niches, and I'm surprised no one's stolen that model yet. Like for example, if I was really after just money and that was the whole goal, and if I knew better back then, if I would have made based Zeus, but he was giving financial advice or making money advice, it would have been 10 times as profitable in
mm,
the sense that it's high RPM, high CPM. That's one of the most high, like you get paid the most from YouTube AdSense for that type of content. It would have worked the same way because financial advice is still just all gurus and faces and whatnot, and it's kind of boring. It's not very interesting. The only person who does it in a way that's really unique and new, and it's why he uses Baya Heza. I don't know if you know him.
mm.
Um, he has this sort of meme style, very comedic, entertaining style of doing the content when he does these challenges. But if you were to have someone who is doing financial content with a base Zeus-esque character, I mean, it would crush, and that's something I've considered too. Just making base Zeus, but for like using base Zeus, but using it for different other styles of content, whether it's business or making money, etc.
Right.
But that's another one of the reasons that animation is a little limited.
Mm,
It limits the types of formats that you can do. So if I want to do an approach or I want to do an interview, right? Or I want to do something like a podcast, it kind of there's just a disconnect there.
right. And how were you monetizing Base Zeus in the very beginning versus how you're monetizing it now?
Yeah, so AdSense was never a big thing for us because again, we got monetization after the Adpocalypse and just our content never really had great CPMs or RPMs. We started monetizing with brand deals. That was really the first way we started monetizing. The first thing we tried launching was merch, like t-shirts, like every YouTuber does. It did not do well. It did terrible. And then we did brand deals. Brand deals were great because at the time it was still new to do a brand deal. And we were working with brands that I was using anyways, or I thought were really, really helpful or helpful to the people who would be watching. So it felt like a really, really good model. But the problem with the brand deal model is that it's not scalable. Let's say I make a video for Vincero, the watch company, or any Manscaped, for example. They pay me $5,000 for a video, let's say. I get paid $5,000 for that video. It's like, great. Yeah, I got paid $5,000 for video. However, if I want to make another $5,000, I have to make another video. So it's not scalable. It's basically just another job, which is why we moved away from the brand deal model. We did that model for years, and it was great because I got to work with lots of brands. I felt like I had a really good system for getting consistency, so that I was able to not only have consistent brand deals and have consistent revenue coming in, but was able to make the videos better in the sense that we had good ideas, and it forced us to think a little outside of the box of how to integrate it smoothly. But I didn't like the fact that essentially you're just getting paid. You're just getting paid once, and then you have to do another brand deal to get paid again, and then another one. So it's a hamster wheel. So then after that, we launched courses. And why I liked courses and coaching the best is it's 100% my product. So I can choose exactly the way it works. I can make a product that's going to fit my audience's needs the best, because as much as upgrading your style is going to help you with girls and buying a watch is going to help you upgrade your style really easily, unfortunately, if I just make a course teaching you if you watch a video on how to text and then I sell you a course on how to text better, if you want more in-depth help, if you really feel like you need it, it's just going to help my audience a lot better. I can control the fulfillment. I can control every aspect of it. For example, with all of my courses that I sold back in the day, it was 100%, 100%, no questions asked, refund guarantee. So I could run the business exactly how I wanted to, and I kept 100% of the margins. Because if Manscaped comes to you and they say, hey, bro, I want to pay you $5,000 for a video, they're probably making at least $10,000 or $8,000. There has to be some profit there. So you're losing some level there. So then we started the courses, which I thought was great because I could just go more in depth on the stuff that I was talking about anyways. And I was able to really help people. and build a deeper relationship with people in that regard. And that was really, really great. But then the reason we moved away from courses temporarily, we still sell them and they're still great. But the reason I moved into coaching was because even with a course, as great as our courses are, and as much as if you signed up for a course or anyone signed up for a course, they'd help you out. Sometimes if you want to get really, really deep, you just need personalized help. And doing the coaching program and doing coaching, which is what I do now, has by far been my favorite business model. It's very, very simple. It's if you watch a video and you want, if this is something that's important to you and you want personalized help from me and my team, we'll just help you, right? We'll work with you specifically. We'll come up with a custom game plan for you, and we'll just get you to your goals if it seems like you're a good fit and we can help you. It's a very simple business model, and I can go really, really deep with a select group of clients. I'm friends with I only bring on clients who I would want to be friends with and hang out with outside of the program. I have lots of new friends now, people that my clients are people I'm friends with now. So it's great from that regard. And also I just get to go really deep and advanced on stuff, because if I'm working with you one-on-one, within a couple weeks, within a couple months, you're going to make really big leaps. And I can talk about dating in a way that I can't talk about to a broad audience.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been doing more coaching recently as well, and I love it. I love it way more because I just get to talk to dudes. I get to see them actually grow and learn more. And it's so awesome when you see that light bulb moment over and over about
Yep.
new things that you're telling them, like in real time. Because they might get that light bulb moment over a YouTube video or a podcast, but I don't get to see that reaction. And
Yep.
being able to see that reaction is fucking awesome, right? Being able to see someone transform their mindset is in real time is pretty fucking great. So thank you fucking Zeus, Benjamin, for pulling up to this bitch. I really appreciate it. Thank you for
Yeah.
dropping some knowledge. And do you have any last words for the boys?
No, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. This was fun. Let's do it again soon.
Deal. All right. See ya.